Hello, welcome to Microfiche Microphone. I'm Micah, and on this channel we look at microfiche from the past, old newspaper articles in the public domain. We look at them with our modern eyes, our modern perspective, and see what we can learn from them. On this microfiche time capsule, we are looking back at the Improvement Era from July 1953. And this article is entitled Harold B. Lee, Apostle of the Lord, by Marion G. Romney of the Council of the 12. I had to kind of chuckle a little bit because this article being written by Marion G. Romney on Harold B. Lee, next week we are reading an article on Marion G. Romney by Harold B. Lee. So apparently they knew each other well. Anyways, Harold B. Lee is someone that I think most people have at least heard of in the church. So what do I know about him off the top of my head? He was called as an apostle in the 40s, I believe, and he was president of the Council of the 12 when Joseph Fielding Smith was president of the church. And Joseph Fielding Smith was very old. If you listen to, these ones are online, yeah? 1971 is Joseph Fielding Smith was president of the church, and they're on the church website. You can listen to them. You can watch them if you want to. But at that point, if you listen to Joseph Fielding Smith speaking or watch him speaking, then you see that he's very old and he has to very focus in order to speak at all. And he speaks very slowly and with a lot of effort. And he wasn't president of the church very long, because I think it was 2 or 3 years, maybe 2 or 3 years, and everybody was kind of just waiting for him to die because he was so frail. And then, it was just the question of, okay, when is Harold B. Lee going to become president of the church? And because Harold B. Lee was quite energetic and quite in good health, so no one thought anything of it. They're like, oh yeah, I'm sure that he'll be president for a long time. Plus, the person in seniority after him was Spencer W. Kimball, who had open heart surgery at one point, and he had also suffered from throat cancer. And so they figured, oh, well, Harold B. Lee will be president of the church a long time, and I'm sure Spencer W. Kimball will die soon. This is what people thought. And I understood that when Harold B. Lee became president of the church after the death of Joseph Fielding Smith, everybody thought that he would be president of the church for the next 20 years. They were all like, okay, let's just all get comfortable. All right, what kind of changes is this president going to make? And then he had a sudden stroke. I think it was 2 years after he became president of the church. Nobody saw it coming. It's either 2 or 3. I'll have to look it up to be sure. But, nobody saw it coming. They were just, it was very, very sudden. I understand he had the stroke and he died like a day later or something like that. And so it was, oh yeah, president of the church is healthy, and then suddenly he's dead. And it just stunned the entire church. Like, wait, what? How did that happen? Where most of the other presidents of the church, it had been predictable. They kind of saw it coming. They saw them slowly fail in health. But yeah, he was just dead, that quickly. So I do know that about him. I don't know if he made any major changes to church policy while he was in office. So yeah, we'll find out about that. I am sure Wikipedia will tell us about this, but this article was while he was a member of the Quorum of the 12. He was just one of them, in the list. I'm not sure why they suddenly decided to make an article on him, but if there was some sort of triggering occasion, but they did in 1953. So let's find out what they have to say, and I'm sure we will be able to fill in the gaps afterwards. This article's a little bit long, so I am hoping that it has some good information, some good background information on this person. So here's a picture of him. This is the cover of the article, of the magazine of the article. Yeah, the Improvement Era from July 1953 had this as a cover. Okay, I don't know if I'm expressing that very well. So that's the first picture I'd like to show. And yeah, this actually has, I mean, you think of articles as having like subtitles. This one has like a super title. Is that a thing? Humility Before God, the Key to the Character of Harold B. Lee, Apostle of the Lord. Yeah? So I don't know. Is that a thing? Anyway, by Marion G. Romney of the Council of 12. So there are a few pictures on this page as well. So we start at the top. It says, a childhood picture of Harold B. Lee. And this one is a high school photograph taken of Elder Lee. Louisa Emmeline Bingham Lee, mother of Harold B. Lee. And Samuel Marion Lee, father of Elder Lee. I feel like he resembles his mother slightly more strongly. He has her nose and set of the mouth, I would say. Yeah. So let's jump into the article. Harold B. Lee is a powerful man in modern Israel. The source of his strength is in his knowledge that he lives in the shadow of the Almighty. To him, his heavenly Father is a senior partner, daily giving him guidance. His contacts with heaven are direct and regular. To him, the gospel of Jesus Christ is eternal truth, and he finds therein the solution to every human problem. The dispensation in which you and I live, says he, is intended to be a demonstration of the power and effectiveness of the gospel of Jesus Christ to meet our everyday problems here and now. Conference Report, October 1941, page 110. I think that was right after he was called as an apostle. That's interesting that he immediately jumped in and gave a talk like that. This conviction has come to him out of his own experiences, as witness the following. I know there are powers that can draw close to one who fills his heart with love. I came to a night some years ago when on my bed I realized that before I could be worthy of the high place to which I had been called, I must love and forgive every soul that walked the earth. And in that time I came to know, and I received a peace and a direction, and a comfort and an inspiration that told me things to come and gave me impressions that I knew were from a divine source. Interesting. Ibid, October 1946, page 146. So that was conference talks, yeah. In responding to his call to the Council of the 12, he said, since 9 o'clock last night I have lived an entire lifetime in retrospect and in prospect. Throughout the night, as I thought of the most appalling and soul-stirring assignment, there kept coming to me the words of the Apostle Paul, Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Therefore I shall take the word of the Apostle Paul. I shall come boldly unto the throne of grace and ask for mercy, and his grace to help me in my time of need. With that help I cannot fail. Without it, I cannot succeed. Okay, so that was literally when he was called. Ibid, April 1941, page 119 to 120. Humility before God and fearlessness before men is the key of his character. His ministry is characterized by an uncommon originality and daring. He is not hampered and restricted by the learning of the world and the forms of men. We who sit with him daily are frequently startled by the scope of his vision and the depth of his understanding. With forthrightness, he separates the wheat from the chaff and comes directly to the truth. I first met him about 20 years ago. Across a back lot, I ran at noontime to the neighborhood grocery store. The operator introduced me to his brother-in-law, Harold B. Lee. He was then, as always, in the service of others. Dressed in striped overalls, his left hand on his breast, he reached out his right to shake my hand. Captivated by his magnetic presence, I knew I had found a friend. Interesting. I soon thereafter learned that he lived in a modest cottage on Indiana Avenue. It was equipped in part with furniture fashioned by his own hands and furnishings made by his accomplished wife, Fern. Okay. That humble home was hallowed by the love he bore for his sweetheart and two bright-eyed little girls, Maureen and Helen. He only had 2 kids? That's kind of a surprise, too. I mean, the last person we talked about only had 2, but I feel like he was an assistant to the 12. He wasn't a president of the church, you know? It's unusual that a president of the church only has a couple of kids. Like, that's quite unusual. The country was then in the midst of the Great Depression in the 1930s. Harold was president of Pioneer Steak. Few people in the church were more severely punished by want and discouragement than were the members of his stake. Although harassed with problems incident to securing for himself and his loved ones the necessities of life, he grappled mightily with the larger problems of looking after the needs of his total stake membership. Many there were in that day who, having faltered, turned to state and federal governments for help. Harold B. Lee was not among them. Taking the Lord at his word, that man should earn his bread in the sweat of his face, see Genesis 3:19, and believing that all things are possible to him that believeth, Mark 9:23, he struck out boldly with the fearless ingenuity and courage of a Brigham Young to pioneer the way whereby his people could, by their own efforts and the help of their brethren in the church, be supplied the necessities of life. By light from heaven he was directed, through building projects, production projects, and a variety of other rehabilitation activities, he gave a demonstration of love for his fellow men seldom equaled in any generation. I'm sorry, I'm a little skeptical by this one. Like, he wouldn't ask for governmental help? Why would you do that? I don't understand why you would say, no, we're not going to get any help. All right, there's a couple of pictures I wanted to look at. Elder Lee deep sea fishing off the coast of Florida, and Elder Lee being entertained at a luau in Hawaii, 1945. Okay. Kind of irrelevant, but that's okay. I don't know. Like, this is one of those where you kind of read between the lines and say, what exactly did he do? I'm hoping that they will get into more detail on that. But so far it's very vague. And when it's this vague, usually it's negative. I don't know. We'll see what it's about. Though, I mean, it could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, yeah. Those who were close to him in those dark days know that he wept over the sufferings of his people, but more than that, he did something for them. For his efforts in this one phase of his life activities alone, he richly merited the honorary Doctor of Humanities degree recently awarded to him by the Utah State Agricultural College. The field in which the doctorate was awarded, humanities, could not have been more appropriately chosen, for with all his heart he loves and serves his fellow men. What does that have to do with humanities? I guess they mean, like, because it's human, but, like, humanities is, like, English, literature, and, like, sociology is social science. But, like, it's languages, basically. So, I don't know. It's weird that they're, like, saying humanities. It's arts and languages. But usually art has its own department. But it depends on the college. Sometimes they're together. He loves the poor, and he has been one of them. I have loved you. I have come to know you intimately. Your problems, thank the Lord, have been my problems, because I know, as you know, what it means to walk when you have not the money to ride. I know what it means to go without meals, to buy a book, to go to the university. I thank God now for these experiences. I have loved you because of your devotion and faith. God bless you, that you won't fail. Ibid, April 1951, page 122. I do like that they're quoting him a lot. They're quoting him speaking in conference. I do like that. In the view of destiny, Harold B. Lee's experience for caring for the people of his stake was in preparation for things to come, his call to a wider service in the general church welfare program. On April 20th, 1935, he says, I was called to the office of the First Presidency. My humble place in this welfare program at that time was described. I left there about noontime and drove to the head of City Creek Canyon. I got out after I had driven as far as I could, and I walked up through the trees. I sought my Heavenly Father. As I sat down to pore over this matter, wondering about an organization to be perfected to carry on this work, I received a testimony on that beautiful spring afternoon that God had already revealed the greatest organization that ever could be given to mankind, and that all that was needed now was that organization to be set to work, and the temporal welfare of the Latter-day Saints would be safeguarded. Ibid, April 1941, page 120 to 121. From that day until now, neither his interest nor his labors in church welfare have ever slackened. Through the years, he has rendered welfare service second only to that of the First Presidency. Okay, so he's about welfare. I like that. Let's look at the pictures. There's no, like, like natural breaks in this article, so I think we're just going to have to make some. So, Harold B. Lee, about the time he was a student at Oneida State Academy. He does not look adult in that picture. I don't know. Doesn't he look like 12? Like, I don't know. Harold B. Lee Wright and Sparrow Huff, official debating team for Oneida State Academy, 1915 to 16. Okay, well, here he looks like an adult, sort of, like a late teens. All right, Fern L. Tanner Lee, photograph taken prior to her marriage. Okay. Elder Lee as a missionary to the Western States, 1921. Maureen Lee Wilkins, eldest daughter of the Lees. And Helen Lee Goetz, the Lees' youngest daughter. So they only had 2 children. Interesting. And they both kind of look more like their mother than their father. Oh, they look a little like him. I don't know. That's interesting. All right. Responding to this call to church welfare, Harold B. Lee left a promising political career. Oh, really? I didn't know he was involved in politics. He was then serving as a Salt Lake City commissioner, to which office he had been first appointed and later elected. Since that time, he has refused to re-enter the political arena, notwithstanding the fact that powerful pressure has been put upon him to do so. See, I don't quite know what he did before he was called as a general authority. Like, they haven't quite talked about that yet. I mean, was he a politician? With the late Apostle Melvin J. Ballard under assignment of the First Presidency, he toured the church introducing and organizing the welfare plan. Sunday morning, April 6, 1941, Harold Bingham Lee was unanimously sustained a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles by the church in General Conference assembled. They mostly take new apostles from stake presidents. So was he a stake president before this? Or sometimes, at least in this era, it was also assistants to the 12. But I don't think he was an assistant before he was an apostle. So this is interesting. But I'm not sure if the assistants existed at that point. I'll have to look up the exact date. I thought it was the 30s, though. I could be wrong. I can't remember. See, I don't have all the details in my head, just some of them. The following Thursday, April 10, President Heber J. Grant ordained and set him apart to that high office. He was thus called in his young manhood to what he considers to be the most sacred service required of mortal men. He came to it well qualified and in the strength of great humility. Of his call, it was said at the time, an audible wave of approval carried from the thousands who filled the tabernacle and was joined in by the uncounted thousands of whom radio carried the message. Really? Both members and non-members of the church joined in that general satisfaction and well-wishing to this man, yet young, who had already proved his ability and integrity in public affairs, in church service, and in the conduct of his own life. Because he was on the welfare committee? Improvement Era, May 1941, page 270. Interesting. As a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, he has, from the beginning, carried an unusually heavy load. His assignments have been varied and freighted with responsibility. I think they mean fraught. They have required him, among other things, to serve as chairman of the servicemen's, music, and general priesthood committees. Was that comma meant to be there? Chairman of the servicemen's music. Or are all those different committees? I don't understand. Servicemen's, music, and general priesthood committees. I think that's what they want to say. I'm not 100% sure. As managing director of the General Church Welfare Committee, as advisor to the General Board of the Primary Association, and as a member of the Publications, Garment, and Expenditures Committees. Okay. By special assignment, he has handled numerous difficult and delicate problems and situations of great moment to the Church. Those who seek his advice and counsel are legion. Legion, huh? I'm going to force a break again because there's some more pictures. Okay. Elder Lee was city commissioner in 1933 when this picture was taken. He looks young for his age. That's really strange because you know that he's an adult because pictures in 1915 he was already an adult. So I didn't catch when he was born, but I'm guessing it was in the 1800s, like late 1890s, I would say. Yeah. And this was in 1933, so he must have been at least 30, like 33, minimum, because we said 1890s. So, He doesn't look 33. He looks 22. And, like, it's maybe 18. You know, he does not look in his 30s. That's so weird. Maybe it's just the quality of the picture, or it's just me, but, like, he does not look his age. All right, this one. Harold B. Lee in the early days of church welfare program with Ted DeBry, secretary. Okay. He looks very serious there. He's starting to get a fold in between his eyebrows. Elderly on the steps of the school at Oxford, Idaho, where he was principal in 1918. See, he must have been an adult then. Are those his kids? Already? At age 18? Well, I don't know exactly how old he was, so maybe, probably not, though, because they don't look like babies. All right. Sister Lee with the 5 grandchildren. Okay. Oh, some of them look a lot like him. Oh, that's interesting. No, the little boy in the front that's like half on her lap, like that looks very much like Elder Lee. And the little one standing on the opposite side, he looks a lot like him too. That's interesting. Well, he has a little lower eyebrows, but other than that. Oh, that's so cute. I think it's so cool to see like patterns of looks that go through generations. It's so adorable. Kids. Kids are fun. All right, back to the article. From the Improvement era reports published at the time he was called to the Council of the 12, we learn of his rich ancestral heritage and of his early achievements. Oh, here we go. Born March 28th, 1899. Woohoo! I was close. I was very close to guessing when he was born. Okay. A son of Samuel M. and Louisa Bingham Lee, he was reared on the family farm in Cache Valley. But a man's beginnings go back before his birth, and Harold B. Lee was richly endowed by heritage. Both his parental and maternal ancestry go back to the early days of the church, and his progenitors were identified with pioneering and colonizing and sacrificing for the cause of truth from Scotland and England, from Ohio and Indiana, across the plains and down to Utah's Dixie, and on up to the hard-won lands of southern Idaho. On his parental side, his great-grandfather Francis Lee and great-grandmother Jane Vale Johnson joined the church in Indiana in 1832. Cool. And shared the tribulations of liberty and far west under the exterminating order and the Nauvoo evacuation, I almost said excavation, and first set foot in Salt Lake Valley in September 1850. I find that fascinating. Yeah, it's like, how did my ancestors get to where we are now? But I do appreciate that they don't equate these ancestors' qualities with Elder Lee's, because it doesn't correlate that strongly. But it is interesting to find out how his ancestors came to where they were now. Besides the names of Bingham and Lee, which he carries, in his veins flows the blood of other notable church names from far back. Harold B. Lee, a member of the family of 6 children with hard-working parents and times not too easy, learned to work as a boy. District school at the age of 5, Oneida State Academy at 13. Okay, so that picture that was taken where I said he looked 12, he was 13. I feel better now. Okay. Debating, basketball, and a facility with the slide trombone are part of the picture of those earlier years. The Albion State Normal School at 17, followed by a first teaching job near Weston, Idaho, were steps that led to an appointment as principal of the district school at Oxford, Idaho, at the age of 18. A call to the Western States mission, for which he departed, November 1920, interrupted this activity. Here he served latterly as president of the Denver district. Okay, pause, because there's more pictures. Okay. The Oahu Steak Hawaii Welfare Farrow Field? Is it taro or farrow? I can't quite read that. In 1934, work being done with a water buffalo. They had water buffalo on Hawaii? At a hukalau at Laie with former stake president Ralph Woolley and some Hawaiian saints in 1945. Okay. Weird. Elder E.G. Peterson, acting president of the Utah State Agricultural College, congratulates Elder Lee on receiving an honorary Doctor of Humanities degree, June 1st, 1953. Okay. I'm sure that meant something to somebody at one point, but I don't know who that person is, so. All right, moving on. A few months of readjustment followed his mission release in December 1922, after which, in the summer of 1923, he took up his residence in Salt Lake City, attending summer sessions at the University of Utah when circumstances permitted, completing the remainder of his university education by correspondence courses and extension classes, and serving as principal in 2 schools in the Granite School District, Salt Lake County, from 1923 to 1928. Meanwhile, he pursued various other ventures as opportunity afforded, later to become first a salesman and then Intermountain manager of the Foundation Press, a library distributing organization. This position he relinquished in 1932 to accept an appointment as Salt Lake City Commissioner, being responsible for the Department of Streets and Public Properties. He resigned from the commissionership in December 1936 to devote his full time as managing director of the Church Welfare Program, to which position he had been appointed some months previous. Okay, that explains a little bit. So he was principal of a school, and then he became a salesman, and then he was a manager for a press, for a publishing company. And then he was involved in politics, Salt Lake City Commissioner, where he was responsible for streets and public properties. And then he got called to the managing director of the Church Welfare Program. So that was at a fairly young age, yes? 1936, he was what, 37? Okay, 37 years old and you're managing director of the welfare program in the 30s. Like, okay, so that's why everybody was like super excited for him to become an apostle, in the Quorum of the 12, because they already knew him as having received welfare help from him or from the organization that he had set up to help people. Yeah, and they all appreciated that. So I like that. Okay, so that's how he was known. That's interesting. During his residence in Salt Lake City, he had served as Pioneer Stake Religion Class Superintendent, Sunday School Superintendent, Counselor in the Stake Presidency, and from 1930 to 1937 as Stake President. Okay, so he did serve as Stake President. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. See, I told you that they don't just call apostles out of nowhere. You have to have, leadership experience in the church. With his counselors, he had instituted in 1932 a stake welfare program and established a warehouse for storing and distributing food and other commodities. Practices worked out in this and other stake welfare programs, which had originated during the same period, were embodied in the church welfare program. Okay. The 7 years of his presidency in Pioneer Stake were marked with progress and the development of many activities other than the welfare program among the stake membership. There was inaugurated a statewide budget system. I hate it when they split it in the middle of a word. Culminating, I'm sure. Continued on page 522. Culminating, as I said, in a recreational program for the entire stake membership and in which all, regardless of their circumstances, could participate. This necessitated the building of a stake gymnasium in which stake recreational activities were centralized. As stake president, he launched the stake also upon a uniform and highly specialized program of leadership development and teacher training. These activities continue today. He was married November 14, 1923, to Fern L. Tanner, daughter of Stuart T. and Janet Coates Tanner of Salt Lake City. Ibid, May 1941, page 270. So he mentioned this in his conference talk? Interesting. His 2 lovely daughters, Maureen Lee Wilkins, wife of Ernest J. Wilkins, and Helen Lee Goetz, wife of Bishop L. Brent Goetz, have borne him 5 grandchildren, all boys. Interesting. He had 2 girls, and then he had, 5 grandsons. I do appreciate that they mentioned the daughters' names before their husbands' names. I do appreciate that. With these fine grandsons, Harold is experiencing the thrills and joys he hoped to have with sons whom the Lord did not see fit to give him. Why did they say that? Oh my gosh! Okay, I'm going to read it again because that's quite the leap. of belief. Like, did he really feel that way? Did he say that he felt this way? Okay, with these fine grandsons, Harold is experiencing the thrills and joys he hoped to have with sons whom the Lord did not see fit to give him. What? Did he feel this way? Because I am not convinced that he felt that way. And for example, our current president of the church, Russell M. Nelson, had 9 daughters and 1 son. Yeah? I don't think that he loves his daughters any less than he loves his son. I don't think he does. And I think it's strange for someone to say this about a man who has 2 daughters. Like, it kind of offends me a little bit. And I don't know that President Lee ever said this himself. I feel like Marion G. Romney is making an assumption here. Like, that's not, I don't know. It's just not a very nice thing to say about somebody's children, you know? Like, I have 2 daughters, and I'm very happy with my 2 daughters. Do I wish I had sons? Not particularly. I am happy with my 2 daughters. Have I mentioned that? I don't get it. Like, did he say this? I don't think he did. I'm sorry, I'm obsessing over this. I'm pretty sure this was an assumption. All right, moving on, because I don't think this is about Harold B. Lee. The fiber of Harold B. Lee's character was toughened and tested in the hard but priceless school of necessity. He gives us a glimpse of it in one of his talks to youth. I have thought of the discipline of the boy and girl of my youthful days in a rural community. We began to do chores shortly after daybreak, so we could start with the day's work by sunup. When the day's work was finished, we had yet to do our evening chores, usually by aid of a lantern. Despite the fact that there were no wages and hours regulation or child labor laws, we did not seem to be stunted from our exertions. Sleep requirements did not admit of too frequent frivolities. Returns from our labors were small and usually came on a once-a-year basis at harvest time. Homes of that day went throughout the summer with but very little ready money, but from our cows we were provided milk, butter, and cheese. In our granaries there was usually sufficient wheat to be taken to the mill for flour and cereals. We had our own chickens and garden and fruits in season. Large families required mother to remodel the suits and dresses of the eldest to meet the needs of the youngest, who barely had a boughten suit from the store. I do not know how we would have managed with the advanced teachings we have today about vitamins, diets, and minimum food budgets that require food items as though they were a necessity and then were only available as luxuries at Christmas time or on other little gala occasions. Education was provided and was within the reach of all who were willing to work, although it involved saving in the summer and batching and working one's own way through school by part-time employment in the winter. Youth and the Church, page 12 to 13. Okay, batching, we discovered in another article, means living as a bachelor. It can be spelled with or without ATE. Yes, so it means living on your own in like a rented room, basically. I understand that this was his experience, but like saying that today we're so worried about like vitamins and stuff and back then it wasn't necessary. Dude, we're trying to improve people's nutrition because people back then who didn't have suffered from vitamin deficiencies. And whether he knows it or not, he probably did too. I'm just saying. Clearly he was a hard worker, and I get where he's coming from. That he grew up poor on a subsistence farm. Yeah? Now that's probably true. But it doesn't mean that the situations of people today are any less serious. Because he used to work back then. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. But I feel like he's belittling a little bit people's experience of today. Concerning of the time when he said this, whenever that was. Okay. Concerning his childhood, we have the following from his brother Perry. We were decked out in short knee pants for all too many years, with flowing white starched cuffs folding back over the coat sleeves, and a white sailor collar draped down over our shoulders. And then there were the ringlets. Carefully combed and painstakingly hand-curled, they dangled down our backs for all the world to see, and pull and scoff. Harold was sent to school at the age of 5, still with his mass of beautiful hair. It may be that then was when he first went into training for the hard knocks of life to come. Suffice to record that those curls caused more skinned knuckles and black eyes than either politics or religion. Why would you do this to your child? Like, if you know your child is going to get made fun of for their hairstyle, then cut their hair. It's really not that deep. I don't get people who insist on keeping, like, people's hair long who don't want it long. Finally, he had had enough, and I remember now how our mother wept when he purloined a pair of scissors and literally sawed off one of the frontal danglers, spoiling the whole effect, which made it necessary to delete the remainder. Oh, welcome relief. He was at last a boy, a fat, chubby one with a pet of all the teachers. Yeah, see, the thing is, like, if a child does this, they clearly have their own style and they have been forced to do the other. Why would you do that? I don't understand. Like, did the mother want a daughter? Like, did she not have enough girls? Like, I don't like this at all. That's not okay. You don't treat a child like that. A child is allowed to express a preference for their hairstyle, no matter how old they are, as soon as they are old enough to express a preference for their hairstyle. I believe I brought my oldest to the barber for the first, well, barber, the hair person, when she was 4, I think it was, because she had kind of shoulder length hair, but it was kind of straggly and with a lot of split ends, and we were having trouble combing through it every day. And she said, "Is it okay if I have short hair?" And I said, "Sure, of course. But I don't think that I can give you short hair myself, so let's go get it cut somewhere, yeah?" And she was so happy. She had like chin length hair after that and loved it. Loved it. So, honestly, let a child have their hairstyle however they want it. If they change their mind later, it will grow out. Yeah? I don't understand that at all. All right. We lived about 3 miles from school, and our earliest means of transportation was a small sorrel pony hitched to the shafts of a 2-wheeled cart. The delight of the day was when we took turns driving the patient little animal to and from school. I remember now the solicitude of our mother, father was away a good deal of the time in those days, who helped hitch the little mare to the cart, hoist and bundle of hay on the back for its noonday meal, and then tuck us warmly into the 2-wheeler for the joyous ride to school. Okay, there's a picture fishing in Hebgen Lake, Montana, west of Yellowstone National Park. Okay, this means nothing. Like, I don't understand why it's even in here. Alright, moving on. Harold first learned to play the baritone, that's the saxophone. Later, he played the trombone in a dance orchestra which toured a circuit of nearby communities. Cool. He's a trombone player. That's not that common, yeah? Earlier, he had studied the piano with a Scotch lady music teacher. Hour after hour, and at noon time, his pleasure was to play the piano. His favorites, the resounding, swinging military marches. Cool. Some of his most pleasurable hours came later after his marriage and the advent of Helen and Maureen, when he could play piano duets with Maureen and accompany Helen when she learned to play the violin. That's so sweet. Aw, I love that. He's like, that's very wholesome, you know? Let's all play music together, and that's what we do as a family. That's really sweet. Since becoming a member of the 12, he has often surprised and pleased ward and stake officers about the church when he has offered to substitute for an absent organist. I love that. That's so cool. He's like, "No, I'll play for if you want," you know? He is an appreciative, grateful, helpful man, blessing all who touch his life. He loves the youth and is intimate with their problems. During 1945, he delivered a series of radio addresses titled Youth and the Church. Oh, is that what that was about? The Youth and the Church citation before. Interesting. Now available in book form, in which he developed the thesis that the sure solution to youth's problems, concluded on page 524, is to be found in the gospel of Jesus Christ. There we go. In the final chapter, he writes, "During the preparation of this book, I have lived intimately with the problems of youth. I have tried to lead you to see and understand how the restored principles, powers, and ordinances of our glorious gospel dispensation may be applied to the lives of youth today. Ibid, page 233. He loves the servicemen and is interested in their problems. During World War II, he traveled from camp to camp, seeking out, encouraging, comforting, and inspiring the men and women of the church and their friends in every branch of the armed forces. His love and interest draw them to him. He is in great demand for temple marriages. What? And there are many couples... Oh, okay, for him to perform the marriage. Okay, I was like, what? Don't understand. Okay, but for the interest manifested in them by him and his devoted wife would not have reached the sacred marriage altar together. Wait a second, let me read that again. He is in great demand for temple marriages, but there are many couples who, but for the interest manifested in them by him and his devoted wife... Okay, so that he and his wife had, helped them somehow and would not have reached the sacred marriage altar together. So that to get couples to be temple worthy, is that what it is? I think that's what they mean. He loves his friends and associates. To their intimate friends, he and his wife are Harold and Fern, and both are favorites. Harold is the first one any of us calls upon in time of need. He has never failed or even hesitated to respond. We never expect him to do so. He loves the brethren with and under whom he labors. From his own statements, it is clear that one of the things which sustains him in his boldness is his certain conviction that the leadership of the church is inspired. Over and over again, he has borne witness that the president of the church and his counselors are prophets of God, that as in olden times, so in our day, holy men of God speak as they are moved upon by the Holy Ghost. Conference Report, April 1946, page 67. We have come to understand that it is my firm conviction that the thing most needed in the church today is a membership stimulated to action by a fervent conversion to the divinity of the calling of the brethren who preside as leaders of this church. Ibid, April 1942, page 86. He loves his family. The loyalty, affectionate consideration, and love for one another shown by parents, children, and grandchildren in his home is a worthy example to the church. He loves the Lord and the truth. God bless us, he said, to seek always the face of our Heavenly Father. May we, without fear, even unto death, protect the fountains of truth. May we do so willingly and with the seal of approval of our Heavenly Father upon us. Ibid, October 1943, page 105. Such is Harold B. Lee, who now stands not at the end of his career but on its threshold. He knows his course, is recognized for what he is, and is on his way. Behind him is a record of high attainment. Before him, hills peep o'er hills, and Alps on Alps arise. I don't know what that's quoting. Sustained by the conviction that he lives in the shadow of the Almighty, he will not falter. The future must reckon with Harold B. Lee. That's a weird way of saying it, but okay. That's kind of cute. It's cute. That's so funny. All right. So let's move back over to Wikipedia, which I'm sure will continue this information. I must say he did not look his age. Yeah, he did tend to look a touch younger than he was. Let's see how long this is. I might skip part of it. Oh, it's not that long. Okay. I would have expected it to be longer considering he was president of the church. But let's see. He was president of the church from July 1972 until December 1973. Okay, so he was only in there like a year and a half. Yeah, year and a half. Wow. That's crazy. That's really not very long. I thought it was like 2 years, but close. All right. All right. Now, up to now, my opinion is very positive because there really wasn't anything negative in those articles except the implication that he really wanted sons and, was somehow unhappy with his 2 daughters. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that's true, but I don't think that person was speaking for President Lee when he said that. So, I don't think that's something that I could attribute to him, like some sort of issue about him. All right, let's take a look at the Wikipedia article, and I'm sure if there is some sort of controversy, it will come up. People love controversy, okay. Harold Bingham Lee, March 28, 1899 to December 26, 1973, was an American religious leader and educator who served as the 11th president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, LDS Church, from July 1972 until his death in December 1973. So far, so good. Early life. Lee was born in Clifton, Idaho, to Samuel Lee and Louisa Emmeline Bingham, and was the second of 6 children. The Lee family lived the rural life, and Lee and his siblings spent most of their youth doing farm chores, which they did mention, yeah? During his childhood, his mother saved him from death several times. Now, they did not mention that. So, when he was 8, he was sent to get a can of lye from the shelf and spilled the deadly product all over himself. Lye was used as a soap, was it not? But, was it really harmful if you spilled it on yourself? His mother opened a vat of pickled beets and poured cup after cup of the red vinegar all over him, which neutralized the lye. Oh, okay. So is it, very strongly, alkaline, it sounds like. Oh, that will cause some chemical burns. That doesn't sound fun at all. So, red vinegar, okay, yeah, that's acidic, so that would neutralize it. I'll bet it bubbled up like nobody's business. You have really clean skin after that. I'll bet it killed every single bit of bacteria that's on his skin. Gosh. When Harold was a teen, he punctured an artery on a broken bottle. Ouch. His mother cleaned it, but it became badly infected. He burned a black stocking to ashes and rubbed it in the open wound, and it soon healed. Is that a good idea? Is that a good thing to do? I don't know. But, I wouldn't try it. I would recommend going to a doctor. Get some antibiotics. Ugh. I don't know. Does soot kill bacteria? It's a question. Lee was fortunate to receive a good education. He finished 8th grade at a grammar school in Clifton, and his parents allowed him to continue his education at Oneida State Academy in Preston, Idaho. The first few years, Lee focused on music and played the alto, French, and baritone horns. Oh, I thought it was a saxophone. Baritone. It wasn't a baritone saxophone, it was baritone horn. I've never even heard of a baritone horn. I'm sure they exist, but apparently it's tuba related? French horn, I know that one. So he's all about the brass instruments. Okay. Later, he played basketball and was a reporter for the school newspaper. Okay. He graduated in the spring of 1916. Cool. The summer following his graduation, Lee worked to receive his teaching certificate from Albion State Normal School at Albion, Idaho. After 2 summers of study in 1916 and 1917, Lee passed the state's 15-subject test to receive his 2nd and 3rd class certificates. Lee held his first teaching position in the fall of 1916. He taught a class of 25 students, grades 1 to 8, in Weston, Idaho. Yeah. Can you imagine? It's a one-room schoolhouse, basically. His salary was $60 a month. I don't know how much that is today. 1917, yes? No, fall of 1916. So let's see. Okay, so $60 in January. January's fine. 1916. 16. There we go. Has the same buying power as. Okay, $1,844.99 today. That's not that bad. For a first job for somebody who just barely graduated, it could be worse. You're not going to be living in luxury for sure, but that's enough to buy you a room somewhere and, get some money. Depending on where you're living, of course. But as long as your rent is relatively cheap, I think that's doable. When he was 18, he became principal of a school in Oxford, Idaho. In September 1920, church president Heber J. Grant called Lee on a mission to the western states with headquarters in Denver, Colorado. He was 21 and served until December 1922. Okay. Marriages. While on his mission, why did I say marriages? Lee met a sister missionary from Utah, Fern Lucinda Tanner. They never mentioned that she was a sister missionary. They renewed their acquaintance when they returned from their missions and were married on November 14th, 1923 in the Salt Lake Temple. Cool. That's really cool. Oh, Fern died in 1962. That's why it says marriages. Okay. And at the time of the article I read, she was still alive, yeah. And on June 17th, 1963, Lee married Frida Joan Jensen, a former mission companion's girlfriend who had remained unmarried. Interesting. She died on July 1st, 1981, so she outlived him. A former mission companion's girlfriend, who he apparently didn't marry, but he became interested in her. Interesting. So he had a very loose connection to her before that then. Civic and community leadership. In 1932, at age 33, Lee became a community leader when he was appointed to fill a vacancy in the Salt Lake City Commission. He was assigned to direct the Department of Streets and Public Improvements. They mentioned that. A year later, his political career was launched when he was elected to the same position. Yeah? So he was appointed and then elected. Okay. Service in the LDS Church. In 1930, Lee was called as president of the LDS Church's Pioneer Stake in Salt Lake City. At the time of his setting apart, he was the youngest stake president then serving in the church. 1930, he was 31. Yeah? As the 1929 Great Depression in the United States had left more than half of the stake's members without jobs, Lee established a stake welfare program to aid members in distress. So he started it in his own stake, is what I'm hearing. He's like, no, let's do it here, and that's why he later became appointed. He was called to the church welfare program because he clearly knows how to set these things up. In 1932, the stake organized a bishop's storehouse to provide members with basic food necessities. In 1936, Lee became managing director of the church welfare program, overseeing the implementation of a church-wide welfare program based on the pioneer stakes. Interesting. So his was basically the pioneering, welfare program of the church. It wasn't established. He was the one who started it, basically. This program, including bishop storehouses, remains in place to this day. That's correct. Although he also pursued a political career, he began full-time church service when he was called to the Quorum of the 12 Apostles in 1941. Lee served on a committee to streamline church organization and functions. For 2 decades, Lee studied the subject of prepared proposals. What does that mean? Lee was the chairman of the Priesthood Correlation Committee under LDS Church President David O. McKay. The committee restructured church organizations in the 1960s, including labeling the churches and women's organizations as auxiliary to the priesthood organizations. Okay. What did they call them before that? I'm not sure. According to some historians, Hugh B. Brown petitioned McKay to rescind the policy of excluding people of African ancestry from the priesthood. However, McKay had not felt spiritual impressions that the time was right to do so. Okay. What does this have to do with President Lee? Historians observe that Brown continued to seek to reverse the ban administratively, but Lee was among those who noted that it was a matter of God making his will known through revelation. Well, I don't see that as negative, he's just backing up the president of the church. Yeah? They didn't say how he felt about it. He just said, I don't think that this is the right thing to do. You don't bypass the president of the church. That's basically what he said. He didn't say anything about the policy himself. In December 1969, Lee initiated a release to church leaders signed by Brown and N. Eldon Tanner, both serving as counselors in the first presidency. What do you mean? This release regarded the church's support for equal opportunities and civil rights, but also indicated that priesthood policy would not change until God revealed it through revelation. Okay. I don't see that as negative. I don't. So basically, they supported equal opportunities and civil rights. That's positive. Yeah? That the ban on the priesthood being held by black members of the church was not yet lifted. He was just backing up the president. Yeah? I don't see that as negative. When McKay died in 1970, Joseph Fielding Smith became church president, and Lee was called as first counselor in the first presidency. Okay, I didn't remember that, but cool. He continued to gain practical experience for what was expected to be a long presidency of his own, given the fact that he was 24 years younger than Smith. In 1972, Smith died, and Lee became church president. Later that year, Lee organized the church's Jerusalem branch and presided over its second area conference held in Mexico, and 4 months prior to his death presided over the first area conference for Germany, Austria, Holland, Italy, Switzerland, France, Belgium, and Spain, held in Munich on August 24th to 26th, 1973. Okay, so he became very interested in the international issues of the church. Lee's presidency proved one of the briefest in the history of the church. It was not the briefest, however. It was at that time, but I'm pretty sure President Hunter passed him up on briefness, lasting from July 7th, 1972 to Lee's sudden death due to a fatal pulmonary hemorrhage. Pulmonary? Oh, I thought it was a stroke. Pulmonary hemorrhage means in the lungs, doesn't it? On December 26, 1973, at age 74. Gosh, pulmonary hemorrhage. He must have been coughing up blood. Oh, gosh, that doesn't sound good at all. At age 74, Lee was buried at Salt Lake City Cemetery. Whoa, like, I can't even imagine that. That's just... Like, I thought it was a stroke. I thought he died of a stroke. How did I miss that he was coughing up blood until he died? Gosh, it sounds horrible. Sorry, that just kind of shook me up a little bit. Wow. Okay, legacy. After his death, a statue of Lee was dedicated at his birthplace, Brigham Young University. Okay, dedicated at his birthplace, period. Brigham Young University also honored the former church president by renaming its library after him. This 665,000 square foot Harold B. Lee Library is one of the largest libraries in the western United States and contains 98 miles of shelving. I've never been there, but I've heard that it's large. Lee's teachings as an apostle were the 2002 course of study in the LDS. I don't care about the course of study, because if you were president of the church, you get one, yeah? It's not special about that. It's just when it was, okay, good to know. It's not important. It doesn't say anything about the person. Okay, really not very much negative. I really didn't see anything major that he did that would be objectionable. So, I understand why some people would be upset that he didn't allow black members of the church to hold the priesthood. But he just said he didn't think the timing was right. He didn't actually express any objections to it happening sometime. He just said the timing is not right, which makes me think that he left it open to happen in the future. Yeah? He's like, no, timing's not right. If it had been, and he felt strongly that it was, I think he would have done something. Like, I don't know, I'm just getting that impression from him. So, I feel like there's a lot of positivity in this information, and this is articles that we were reading, and that Harold B. Lee is one of those people that you could absolutely hold up as an example of how to live your life. Sounds like a really decent person that just did good things his entire life. So good for him. And I love that he plays piano and he could just randomly jump in as organist anytime. I love that. That just makes my heart happy. Yeah. So, Harold B. Lee. Awesome. I am so glad we got the chance to learn about him today. I don't think I knew half that many details about his life, so I found that really interesting. If you did too, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.